Hello, beautiful Virgos. These are going to be your messages for the next little while. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, if these messages don't make sense to you right away, listen to them down the road. Many of you say that it makes sense to you later. I feel like I just want to jump right in. So let me just see how I want to start. I feel like I'm a little bit unprepared, except it's like I'm holding this big ball of energy and I'm trying to figure out how to present it to you. Okay, so where do we start first? First and foremost, it is an honor to serve you. That is what I'm being asked to say, and I, as Joanna, mean it. And why am I saying this? That's interesting. Because I'm letting you know how much this means to me. And when I say this, how much me giving messages means to you. It's important. It's something that is not even part of who I am. It's who I am. And it hasn't always been that apparent to me, or when it has, I denied it. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. Therefore, and in addition to that, it also means that I am very connected to spirit. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I am to observe you and help you recognize where you see yourself as someone different. And what I mean by this, because obviously we're all different, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is, if you're looking at the messages that I give you, and if they present something important, and you think I have the information for you, but you don't, then the answer is you're sadly mistaken. And that's because you have access to it just the way I do. The fundamental difference between perhaps you or I is I have had plenty of time to develop trust in myself, not even trust in my gifts and my abilities, but trust in myself. And I'm saying, why am I saying this? Because I'm being asked what to say by a certain energy. And the reason I'm saying this, because apparently some of you listening to this may feel slightly discontent in terms of where you are, but you are unable or unsure how to get to the next step. And therefore you're looking for information. I would assume some of that information is watching what I have to say. And although it is all beautiful and wonderful, and you're giving me your trust in some way to let me into your life when you accept certain things that resonate with you, by allowing me to do that for you, you are essentially learning how to trust yourself. Because what I have here is I can't just give to you and say, here, have it. I present something, and then whatever you think of it, or however it applies to you, you either accept it, run with it, or you reject it and say they're not for me. So there's a very important message in this, and that is that having connection to spirit isn't a choice, because we're all connected all the time. We're never disconnected. What may be disconnected is the feeling we have, or the feeling we don't have, and our own inner limitations. And I feel like I'm saying this, it feels very different to some of you, because you are finding yourself being bored. Perhaps you are bored in your life situation. Perhaps you are bored in a relationship. Perhaps you are bored with the job you do, or perhaps you're bored with friends, or, you know, the idea here of not being very content. I have no idea what I have to do with this, but I'm just going to keep on going. And, oh, intuition. All right. That's because, okay, got it. And you may not know either what that is, the boredom, or maybe you're something missing, or you may not know how to go about to figure it out. And then once you figure it out, what to do with it. What's being implied here is that there's a lot of unknown as to what's missing, what should I do about it, where should I go find it. But there's not enough emphasis on tuning in and asking oneself the question, what is it that I actually want? And what's happening here, what's being illustrated is, oftentimes we look to the outside to try and find the answer we're looking for. But more often than not, the answer comes straight from within. We just either don't have access to it, except we always do. So we think we don't have access to it. We believe we can't. We believe we're too good or too dumb or too special or not special enough. We don't trust ourselves. And essentially, sometimes it's easier when somebody tells us what to do. The problem with that is that when that happens on a regular basis, then we are essentially robbing ourselves of our own power. Except that's fundamentally not true, because I've said this before. Your power is always intact. It hasn't gone away. It hasn't disappeared. It hasn't been, parked somewhere over there. Your power is always attached to you because you're it. What might be happening is you are not asserting your power because you forgot. When you did, maybe you were reprimanded. Perhaps you are feeling afraid of rejection. I mean, there's million ways how we limit ourselves from being powerful. But the fact of the matter is, you are powerful. You're just not exercising the option to feel powerful. And why am I saying all of this? Because those of you who are listening to this, a good majority of you, there is an aspect of your life where you're either unsatisfied, it's fundamentally out of whack, means it's imbalance, or you're searching for some kind of balance or something to balance an unbalanced situation, which I think is similar. And you might be looking for answers in all these places, but the number place you need to look at is within yourself. So how do I fit in? My job, apparently, is to help you ask yourself the right questions. Because if you don't ask yourself, first of all, if you don't ask yourself a question, you're not going to get an answer. If you don't ask yourself the right question, you're not going to get the answer. If you don't know what to ask, that's even worse. What if you don't even know that you can ask? So there's all these things that we don't necessarily pay attention to. But the moment you see how this works in terms of tuning within and asking yourself the right question, is the moment where many of you will begin to fundamentally shift in terms of how you feel about yourself. Because there's something very empowering about going within and knowing who you are. And then on top of it, to action that knowing, living the truth. There's something very empowering. A lot of people, a lot of us purposely, not necessarily shut down power, but we minimize our power for various reasons. Ones that I've mentioned. Fear of rejection, fear of not belonging, fear of being too different, fear of being different, fear of, the gazillion different fears that we tell ourselves. But the point here is, like I mentioned earlier, we're never disconnected. We're always connected. We're never disempowered. We never not have power. We always have power. We may temporarily feel disempowered because we are in disconnect with our own power. So what has this got to do with the messages I have for you? Well, it is because you are coming to a point where, let me start this way. The word completeness was shown to me. The moment I saw that word, I knew that it represented a very, let's call it a karmic, breaking of a karmic cycle. And that cycle is about holding yourself back. And it's a generational cycle. And the idea of completeness felt that many of you are on the road to recovery to feel complete. Not to be complete, because you already are complete. It's to feel complete, because you can be in possession of something, you may still deny it, which is what we often do. So, and that marks a very important time of one's life. Number one, it releases us, you, I'm becoming you for a moment. It releases us from a karmic pattern, which means we are less likely to repeat the same steps again. We step more into our own power because we choose to no longer hold on to what we perceive are our limitations. We choose to discard things that no longer serve us, even though sometimes it's hard, because letting go of something that's always been with you, it's hard. But at the end of the day, it represents a birth or a brand new beginning. So if you are somewhere in your life where you are not content, dissatisfied, something is imbalanced, then there is a pretty good indication that good things are to come. And that doesn't say that you don't have good things already. But if you're listening to these videos, chances are you're looking for some guidance, right? You're looking for some guidance. So for some of you, it's going to be drastic. For some of you, it's going to be fairly small. Neither which is good or bad. It's all good. The point is that when you begin to ask yourself these questions and you begin to come into a realization that you already know majority of the answers you're seeking for, you then begin to feel very empowered. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but it is a very different trajectory. Okay, so I'll show you the first card that kind of stood out for me, that pretty much represents what I want to cover. And the card is called the Curse. And I've looked at this card many times. It is only today that I realized this black hand on this person's mouth. Only today. And I've had this card for probably a year and a half. So it just tells you how some things just stand out when they're supposed to. Okay, to me, despite the word curse, to me, this is a depiction of an innocent person, young person, being held back by some quote-unquote dark force. By dark force, I don't mean evil or devil. I don't mean that. What I mean is by some heavy past energy. In other words, I believe the description of this card is something along the lines, are you hostage of your own understanding? Something of that sort. So this is about deeply rooted belief systems. And when this card is coupled with holographic healing, to me indicates a possible massive shift, massive on a grand scale, of shifting one's foundation in terms of how one feels. Okay, and one can feel many different things. Some of them is empowered, happy, content, and the list goes on. So there's something magnificent here happening in the background, and it is an opportunity for you to feel intact. What does it mean, intact? Feeling like you're no longer separated, like you are, thank you, integrated. Okay, so there is a feeling here of healing happening. This is a healing that you may be going through right now. This is a healing that you have been going through for a while, or this is a healing that you will be going through. Whatever the healing is for you, and a lot of it will be around inadequacy, know that the moment that you begin to address those parts of you that you have rejected is the moment where you will begin to create acceptance. What you're really looking for is acceptance. When we look for love, when we look for admiration, when we look for feeling of belonging and many other things, we're essentially looking to feel, to feel like we are part of something, to feel whole. And generally, majority of the people I talk to feel completely discombobulated. We have all these aspects of ourselves that we push aside because for whatever reason, we feel not worthy. And that generally leads to many things. Many things that it leads to are things that when we experience, we don't like. So there is a very settled feeling that I'm getting from this. I hope this is going to make sense to you guys at some point. I get a very settled sense with this, and the feeling is that I feel more grounded, I feel settled, I feel more at peace with myself, I feel secure, I feel slightly awkward because it's not me yet, and I'm talking about you. So it's a completely new feeling that I am experiencing. And that and in of itself can be frightening. And if that's the case, there is a tendency to push that feeling away. What I'm trying to say is this. Example, if you've always wanted to be loved, but you have experienced moments where you felt unloved and it kind of stuck with you, and you have this aspect of you that feels unloved for whatever reason, then, apologies for this, a call came in. All right. So as I was saying, if you are someone who has experienced feeling unloved, and because of those experiences, you developed a feeling of unworthiness, and now in your life, where it's in the back of your mind, you're searching to be loved. Because you have experienced not being loved and the pain that goes with it for so long, it kind of became your home, okay? Except who wants to feel that all the time? No one. So naturally, everyone wants to be loved. It's like food to us. So then that person attracts someone who loves them completely. And the person who felt unloved before, even though they're getting everything they're wanting, they become frightened. They become frightened of the feeling, the sensation they were yearning so much for. And that's because the resonance or the vibration of that love that they are wanting is completely contradictory to the vibration they come equipped with, okay? So one may get, hence the feeling, be careful what you ask for. One may ask for the things they desire, but the moment they have that desire, oftentimes the person pushes it away. It's called self-sabotage. So why is this important to know? Because it is important for you not to repeat the same patterns again. Why is it important? Well, because chances are you don't want to repeat the same patterns if they're not working, right? But why is it important to say now? Again, because I feel that this is a moment where many of you can break your old structures and old foundations. And that will feel very freeing. What it does require on your part is recognition of yourself, or more recognition of yourself, in terms of recognizing how you feel and what each feeling is telling you. And then assessing the situation on the value that you feel. In other words, if you were to have a session with me, and if you were to ask, Joanna, tell me what my life purpose is, I would say to you, I can't tell you what that is. I can point you in the right direction where you can look for it and find it yourself and go, oh my God, Joanna, here it is. That I can do for you because I am here to empower you. If I tell you what to do, then you are still a disempowered person. Okay? So, you might want to ask more questions. If there's any situation that you are not happy with and you're wondering what is it or what's next, ask yourself the question, what is it that I want now? And I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess I am surprised. I'm surprised how little we know ourselves. We have no idea how to ask ourselves questions. And just the connection to a different connection to a question can completely change whether you get an answer from your intuitive answer or not. And it's also our expectations. We oftentimes expect certain things already. So if you're expecting a certain answer, then why wait for an answer? You already know what the answer is. Expectation, right? So there's a highlight here on the word expectation. Okay. What is your expectation of yourself? What is the actual expectation of yourself? The one that's deeply, you know, shadow, inner child, shadow work. What is important to you? Why are things important to you? Without asking yourself those questions, you never really know who you really are. And unless you really know who you are, it's very hard to decide where you want to go. Because it's hard to know where you want to go unless you know where you are at. Okay? So why am I saying all of this? Because the consciousness, poverty consciousness, is coming up to the surface. It's letting go of the mindset of I can't, or I won't, or I'm not supposed to, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, whatever it is that we object to ourselves, or object to ourselves. There's obviously a financial component to it, but to me, more than finances, it represents your own inner self and security. And I actually want to say inner self obscurity, because now you're in the process of changing that. Now, the way you feel about yourself in terms of your own value will affect everything in your life, including your relationships. So if you are feeling bored, or if you are feeling stagnant, or if there is some unbalanced area in your life, you might want to ask yourself the question, if I'm still here, how is it serving me? Most people would say it doesn't, but I always say, if it didn't serve you, you wouldn't be in this contract. You wouldn't be in this exchange. And it is an energetic exchange. Even right now, we're having an energetic exchange. So I feel like I'm all over the place, and I'm asking for guidance, and I'm being asked to keep going. Okay, I want to focus on your third eye. I actually asked, what's the focus? What chakra is being focused on, or would be good to focus on? And this is what came up for you. And when I look at this card, I hear the word brilliant idea. So over the next little while, pay attention to your inner vision. That's message number one. Message number two, you may notice that your inner vision expands or amplifies. In other words, it's almost like you will begin to be flooded with ideas. Okay? Does that mean you should go and implement every idea? No. Well, no, it doesn't mean that. But it does mean that at least you pay attention and maybe put it down somewhere. Note it somewhere. And the reason for it is because I feel these ideas will come, but they will be very fleeting, and it would be easy to just either dismiss it or not acknowledge it. So what I'm trying to say is this. I feel, psychically speaking, you will get a lot of activity in terms of the answers to your questions. So it is important for you to pay attention to your intuition. Okay? Is there anything else? Yeah, your third eye is being shown to me, and it's pulsating. So what this is telling me is that your third eye is waking up. And I'm actually getting a bit of a headache. That may also mean that some of you, as your third eye is waking up, because it's almost like a muscle, you may have a bit of headaches. Okay, I don't think you have to be just Virgo, but for some reason for you Virgos, this is coming, this is amplified for the next little while. Okay, so pay attention to your third chakra. You may also want to do some sound therapy. That's what I just heard, in order to amplify your senses, which also includes psychic senses. So this was just given to me. I actually don't know if that's the case, so I'm going to go research later. But sound therapy for some of you, it's going to make sense. All right. Is there anything else? For some of you, it is important to drink more water, and you know who you are. And I don't think it has to do with the opening of the third eye. I feel it has to do just with not drinking enough water. So if you're not drinking enough water and you know it, consider this a confirmation of what you know, then do it, okay? And is there something else that all I feel is just onset of activity. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in your mind, but it feels to me like it's intuitively driven. So others of you may feel very inspirational. You may feel a lot of inspiration coming through. It's important to try and not block it. You know, numbing it. Why would you want to numb your inspiration? If you're afraid of it, why would you be afraid of inspiration? Okay, I guess when you have inspiration and then it's like, oh my God, what do I do about it? And that for some of you can, for some of you, it can cause an anxiety. I can see it. You can have an inspiration on going and making a bold move, but that idea of you making that bold move may give you initial, you know, an anxiety. So I can see that happening. Thank you. All right. So also watch for that. Is there anything else? Lots of clean water for you guys. This is going to sound really interesting because I don't talk about this stuff all the time. But I also want to say either your pineal gland is clearing out, have to see what that means, or it's important to cleanse your pineal gland. And I don't think it's like you cleanse with chemicals or obviously water. It's not that. It's vibration. It's sound therapy. I wonder if sound therapy has any bearing on the pineal gland. For those of you who know, do me a favor, let me know in the bottom. I actually don't know. I have absolutely no idea. Okay, I'm going to research into it. All right, so that's the card on third eye. Harmony comes up, and harmony is a beautiful word. We all want to live in harmony, but that's not what it means. To me, this is representative of harmony within you that stems from having a very balanced second chakra, okay? And a lot of it has to do with trust. Trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting someone, trusting the universe, trusting your community, the general idea of trust. This is also an area where creativity begins to happen, starts to happen. This is also your creative center. If this center is blocked, you will feel like there's not a lot of creativity flowing. So it's interesting because this card talked about flowing creativity, and it's coming again with flowing creativity. So it feels like over the next little while, particularly I want to say end of October, November, there seems to be a creative flow. Okay. What I'm saying right now may not make sense to you if you're listening to it at the beginning of October. So check in mid-November and see if it makes more sense to you, okay? Also, for some of you, wearing orange. For ladies, if you want to wear orange lipstick, that works too. Even an orange stone. And it's a stone of any stone that's orange, there will be a lot of, whatever stone that's orange for stability. I also feel citrine would work, even though it's for solar plexus, but it's all connected. Because I feel like there's a lot of stability. There's a lot of stable grounding in that stone. This is implying there is second root chakra healing that is either taking place, will be taking place, or may need to take place. And what do I mean by that? Any situations, any feelings you have about you, or not even about you. Yeah, any feelings you have, for example, with distrust, whether it's trusting you, trusting the universe, trusting a loved one. If you have any feelings of distrust, that will be your subconscious expectation. And whatever you subconsciously expect, you will 9 times out of 10, you will create it. And if you create something different that's opposite of that, you know what you're going to do? You're going to do the same thing that you would do with love. You'd push it away because it's absolutely contradictory to how it is that you're vibrating. So confidence building is what restores trust. So I obviously don't have enough time to go into it. But anything that you can do to instill more confidence within you, any form of exercise, kickboxing, you know, learning a new skill, taking the art class, whatever it is that will give you a little bit more confidence, it'll help you rebuild your trust, okay? Now, when you have trust, you are much more relaxed. When you're much more relaxed, you're much less defensive because you are not expecting shit to go wrong all the time. And magic things happen. That's when you become much more receptive to the universe giving you. So a lot of beautiful things stem from healing a second chakra. I see here, Three of Wands, there is, again, somewhat of a boredom that some of you are experiencing. Not totally bad, not totally great. It's just kind of blah, okay? And for some of you, it is literally a corporate world, and you're bored with that. For others of you, it's in a relationship. For yet others of you, it is in some sort of a job. And you're looking for other alternatives. You're looking for something more. And that's initially what I was seeing earlier on. So why am I seeing this? Because this is what I believe initiates you looking into things. So I feel like you've been doing this for a while. And because you've been doing this for a while, you've been asking questions. And that's probably why you're watching channels like mine, because you're hoping that it'll give you some answer. So the King of Wands represents, yes, this could be someone that you are absolutely connected to. So it could be a physical person. But more than that, this feels passion. This might be being bored with your career, being bored with career. Yes, it could be a relationship, absolutely. But there's fire, career, passion, commitment. There is some boredom with this. All right. Now, what else do I want to focus on here? I already talked about Five of Coins in reverse, and that is you shifting out of poverty consciousness, which is basically lack consciousness. So we already talked about that. Focus. Okay. So if you do not know exactly what it is that you want, but you are not quite happy with where you are, then ask yourself, at least let me be honest with myself and let me choose how I would like to feel. Now, I said something very important. I said, let myself choose. Because at the end of the day, where you're going is your chosen destination. So you get to choose and decide. If you don't know what that choice is for you yet, then at least know what feeling you're after. Because that will begin the process of attraction. If you know what feeling you are after, then once you know that feeling, then the universe begins to align itself to suit you. So for example, if you don't know what you want, but you want to feel content, then imagine first and foremost what content would feel like. And once you imagine what that feels like, ask yourself this question: what person do I need to become in order to feel this? And that, you know, many of you may get different answers. It all depends on each individual one. Be open to what comes to you. Don't judge yourself when you get the answer. Chances are the answer is different than you think or you expect. So it's important to be open-minded, all right? Sometimes our intuition, or sometimes when we ask ourselves that question, we start to get answers we feel uncomfortable with. And that's because sometimes when we begin to see the truth, it becomes very uncomfortable, particularly if you have been trying to sell yourself on a whole bunch of goods that really were not goods. In other words, if you've been trying to, if you've been denying yourself your truth, and if you have not been honest with yourself, and if you have been pretending that everything is fine, then when you ask the question, what is it that I really want? That answer may be revealed to you, but it may not be a very comfortable place to be at that moment. The beautiful thing is that honoring your truth or accepting your truth is inherent in order for you to move forward. And also, it doesn't mean you have to do anything about it, but it means you're no longer lying to yourself. It means you're no longer in self-denial. It means that you are willing to see the truth about you in order to set yourself free. And every single human has to do that on their own terms. So what I see here is, I don't even know how I got on this point, but a focus point. So if you don't know what it is that you want, examine what is the feeling that you want, and then focus on that feeling. Now, that's why imagination is so important, because how do we create? We create with imagination. We don't think of it that way, but think about it. When you are afraid of certain things, that is your imagination creating a scenario in your mind where you begin to feel afraid. That's imagination. That is imagination. You do it automatically because you've always done it, so you could do something else instead, but you are absolutely creating this. This is, even if you are remembering things from the past, you are still using the creative process in order to bring that memory into your mind. You are creating it, okay? So you can equally create something different. So the point of this message is focus on what's important to you. Don't focus on what you don't have. Because when you focus on what you don't have, you bring more of that to you. In other words, lack. You probably have heard me say this before more than once, so I am just repeating this because it's worth repeating. And I don't know if this is making any sense. It feels a little bit chopped all over the place, but there's one big theme that is emerging from this, and that is many of you are in the process of breaking old patterns. And in order for you to break your old patterns, you first have to recognize your current patterns, where they come from, how they feed you, how they support you in whatever way, so that you can understand yourself more completely. Once you understand yourself more completely, then you have much better chance of not making the same patterns again and literally shift and change your life for the better. And we all want that. And that's not presuming that you have it bad. But if you're listening to this, there's generally, you're searching for something. You're searching for something. Even if this doesn't make sense to you right away, this will apply perhaps down the road where you will begin to feel that way. Or maybe you don't feel this way because you haven't stopped long enough to listen. Sometimes that happens too. So I think I'm going to leave it with that. If you're meant to hear it, if you're meant to understand it, you will. Otherwise, I'm going to trust that the messages find their own owners. Every time I feel discombobulated in a session, it's usually where I get the most feedback. So that's really, really interesting. And it just further proves that most of it makes no sense to me. So I have to try to make sense of things that make no sense to me. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you want to reach me for a private session, of course, that information is down below. For Vimeo messages from July to December, that link is also down below. And of course, I wish you best of luck. Please take care of yourself. Listen to yourself, your intuition, and focus on what you already have. All right? I wish you best of luck. Take care.